Hi. I've been having some great discovery calls with writers who are reaching out to talk to me about the story intensive and how it might fit in their life and if it's right for them or not. And so many writers have been asking me why I put the somatic practices into the classes. So each lesson has now a guided meditation and visualization from a somatic coach who helps you feel embodied. It helps you create rituals. It helps your nervous system. It helps ground your nervous system in a variety of different ways. They're beautiful. And this is something that we added last year to the Story Intensive, and then I decided to add it to the whole story course itself and re-released it with these practices. And the reason why is this. Some writers are asking me, is it just for people who are writing memoir, because sometimes they're writing about really traumatic things, traumatic events? And I mean, yes, if that's the case, yes. But here is the reason. Any story, I'm looking at all of these books on my shelf, any book that has, or any story that has any aspect of transformation in it, where there is a conflict that needs to be resolved one way or another, or if there's a difficulty to be overcome, an understanding or a wisdom to be gleaned, any kind of transformation, which is really what we read stories for and learn from in stories. There is going to be an aspect of conflict and trouble and sometimes trauma, whether it is fictional or science fiction or fantasy or memoir or any story, any genre, any genre that has a story in it that has some aspect of transformation. The writer will be required, if they are going to write it from an embodied place, they will be required to embody those feelings and those experiences and then offer it, retranslate it into writing and offer it to a reader. And this is what writers do. We feel things, we take them in and we feel things, and we slow down long enough to actually pay attention to what those details would feel like. And then we write them so that someone else who reads it can experience those feelings, experience that story, experience the emotion, and experience the transformation in and through reading the story. What writers do, what we do, is put ourselves into those positions and write our way through them, fictional or not fictional. And this is not something that's just for the mind. This is something that the whole body experiences as we express it through characters who are living in scenes with bodies. Separating that has been sort of a long time-honored tradition in academic study, I think. And it has been in my own experience, and just culturally, it's just sort of like we've been conditioned to understand that learning and writing is an intellectual activity. Creative writers know that there's more than that. We know that, we feel it. I think a great deal of resistance that comes up is about this. It's because this is really intense work. It's deep work. And if we're not in a supported place where we know that we can make it through that transition and that transformation, whether we're writing about scenes that are in fictional stories or memories or stories about other people in nonfiction, any way that we do it, if we're going to write from a place of integrity and embodied truth, we're going to have to go through that. And if we're not feeling supported, if we don't have the space that we need and the supports we need, if we don't have stuff around us and people around us to make that we know that we're okay to go through it, we're going to resist going through it. Of course, we're going to resist going through it. Also, sometimes when we're free writing and just writing and letting and seeing where the story is going to take us, if we're writing from a place of integrity and really working with curiosity and going into scenes without knowing what's going to happen and really feeling for our characters, we're going to possibly be surprised by what comes up. It happens all the time. It happens all the time. And this is why I have built the story intensive the way I have. And it's why I've built somatic practices into each lesson of the story course. It's why our somatic coach, Annie Bray, works with the teachers before they begin teaching your classes and trains them a little bit in a little bit of this nervous system regulation so they can speak to that if and when that comes up, so that you can write the stories that you want to write, the stories that need to be written, the voice that needs to come out. It's a beautiful thing to let that out, and it's a beautiful, beautiful work to write through stories so that readers can experience and access emotions through reading your work. And it's one of those things that the art inspires you, the art inspires the reader. It's a network. It happens. It's different, but it's the same. All of that magic requires a lot of support. And it's not just a mental exercise. It's more than that. It's more than that. It's the stuff of life. It's our human experience. And writers do that. Writers go into the human experience and they express it. They feel it and they express it. And I want to make sure that writers are supported and that you feel as strong and as cared for as you can, as I can, while you learn all the craft and all the technique. You learn about plot, you learn about dialogue, you learn what starts a story, what you learn about point of view and consciousness, you learn how to use influence in your work, you learn about character development and how that builds a story and how what happens to the character is the actual organization of the whole story itself. You learn all of that plot and technique in the story intensive while also feeling super supported so that anything that you write through the transformation can be met. And I just want you to write what you want to read. I want to write it. I want to read it. I want us to be writers who write with joy and courage and strength. And I love all the genres. And I think that every genre benefits from learning craft and feeling supported in and through the writing of it. So that's why the somatic practices, that's why the story intensive exists. That's why I have small classes and teachers and why we do everything the way we do. This is at the heart of it. So that you can experience a transformation and write it really, really well. Just improve your writing and be a great writer while also feeling strong enough to do that so it doesn't crush your spirit in any way. The opposite happens. You expand.